Dad, who is the biggest loser in American history?
I told you, KP, don't be so hard on yourself. Enjoy some of the wildest chapters
and most glanced over topics here on American Loser. Means we're back, okay? The caw. Give him one caw, Dad. Oh, that's...
Sorry. That's harking up a fun ball.
He's just coming back from vacation. Give him a break.
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting a little bit more of like a caw, that kind of a thing.
Wait, LP, you open your mouth. I'll do the voice for you. Ready?
Ready?
1, 2, 3. There you go. I got you.
All right, there we go.
Oh, man. Well, I'm about 3 coffees deep, and I snorted a fat rail of ginkgo biloba, so we're about to have a great episode here, folks.
You go.
What's the show we're listening to?
Welcome back to American Loser.
American
We're
Loser.
live, I should say, in our time, and, we'll put this out on YouTube for you suckers as well. We're trying to figure out what's going on with our iTunes feed right now, because last week's episode did not make it onto iTunes, but made it onto all the other platforms. And, of course, it was about a conspiracy theory.
That's it. We're being watched, and we're under surveillance for sure.
Put your tinfoil hat on.
The truth is out there.
But we got to introduce ourselves. If it is your first time watching the show's called American Loser. We put the spotlight firmly on second place, telling you weird and bizarre stories from American history. This week, we will not let you down. We have a damn good one again here.
Absolutely.
My name's KP Burke. I've been a stand-up comic in New Jersey for the last decade, and that's why I have no money, and I can't afford a proper host.
Look at
He's
you
coming
being
to my
all
house for dinner, but
look at you being all
another.
self-aware.
They're thawing out a chicken cutlet for me right now
That's
that they're
it.
going to put outside for me in the rain. Of course, to my right is my handsome dilf of a dad. So glad to have you here on the show, LP. Welcome back from Aruba.
Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah.
We had an awesome destination wedding last week, and had to spend a couple extra days down there in the one happy island of Aruba. But yeah, we're back.
Yeah, shout out to the Galganos there. Good
Absolutely.
Congratulations.
It's a wedding that you're not going to forget for certain.
I hear you. And for video proof that the people did not think that maybe he was actually in Aruba, just go ahead and show them that.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
There, now
Thank
we're
you
talking.
for highlighting the vitiligo on the top
right.
of my head, but that's
Well,
all right.
actually, if we take a marker to that, it's actually an old Freemason symbol.
Yeah, if you connect the dots, there's a whole thing going there, too. Might be a treasure map, too. I don't know.
We're going to steal the Declaration of Independence. And, of course, in Kahuna Vision, in 3, 2, 1.
Well, what's up, guys?
There it is, the other side of the fence.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is the star of Clerks 3.
Oh, stop it.
It's out now. I saw it. The great Nick Franco was kind enough to bring me with him over to the 7 o'clock premiere at the Count Basie, which, by the way, it cracked me up because it's also called the Hackensack Meridian Health Center.
Yeah.
So Nick Franco made me walk with him into the Hackensack Meridian Health Center, sitting there trying to figure out where the movie was playing. Like, we're looking around like, this is a hospital. I'm sure it's at the Count Basie, right? And Nick's like, oh, I mean, it says up here it's a...
Oh, my God.
And Nick and I had a walking
we're
tour
close,
of
we're
all of
close.
Red Bank.
There you go.
But we ate at the Dublin House beforehand, so we were able to walk
There
off some
you
of that
go.
good old-fashioned grease. But I won't. We can't get him too emotional here, folks. He has a job to do. But
Yes.
a highlight of my evening and in the years of knowing you was getting to see you live on screen in a Kevin Smith production. All right, and then getting to see if I don't think we've ever revealed your true identity on the show. And I don't know
Not
if you
fully.
want.
I think we've alluded to it.
Do you want to say what your credit was in the movie? Because I thought it was pretty cool.
This is why we
Yeah.
have to put them behind the fence.
Well,
in
I
the Kahuna
mean,
Vision
so when
to
you
keep
watch
the crowds
so,
from,
so when you watch the movie, and if you look for a credit with the character named True Believer, that's my character. But what's really dope about that scene is that my dad sings over my scene.
oh, that's very cool.
And Kevin has talked about this a couple of times on air on Fat Man Beyond, but he said that he was like, it was pitch perfect because that's not going to matter to most people, but it's going to matter to the people who matter. And I could have just died right there. I'm good.
Well, please don't. We have much
Yeah,
more we
really.
need out of you. All right? But that's definitely a highlight for sure. And it's please check out Clerks 3 as well. It was
Big
absolutely
time.
hysterical.
It's a great fucking movie.
O'Halloran kills it. Everybody was great in it. I laughed the entire movie. It was awesome. And again, thank you to Nick Franco for stepping up and hooking me up with some ticks. Because I forgot to ask.
Shout out to the Count Basie Theater, who now has the perfect system in play to give their patrons heat stroke and then wheel them over to the fucking hospital.
There you go.
No, seriously, that theater was so hot, it was ridiculous.
Just a gurney ride away, right?
Right? just right there.
And a security guard that literally looked like LaFleur's from Mallrats.
Oh my god.
Oh, man.
Fucking force.
But I will say this, man. I'm very, very proud of you, and we like hanging on to you and your artistic abilities as long as we can keep you. Someday you're going to move on from this bad boy.
Yeah, I don't know. He's making moans about going elsewhere. He's going to become a part-time West Coaster,
I don't think so.
a brief West Coaster,
Yeah,
or visit,
a
anyway.
sojourn.
A visit.
Yeah, but it's a business thing, so you never can tell.
So we'll have to figure that one out. We'll plot the next episode here soon too. But we have kicked the show up a notch to another level. Thank you, by the way, all this stuff we get to do, paying the Kahuna to sit there on the monitor, have the cameras up and running. Obviously the shared universe takes excellent care of us. We appreciate that one. Ming has all the fun toys here. Kahuna's the one who knows how to use them. So
That's right. That's right.
But we certainly appreciate that. And thank you so much to all the people over at the Founding Losers. Because of your donations, for as little as $3 a month, you're able to help keep this bad boy afloat. Thank you. It goes away without you. I'm being honest. I can't afford at this point. We sunk everything else I had into a little project known as Escape from Jacksonville, directed by Christian Cordes, whoever the hell that is.
Yeah.
And that one's still doing the rounds, doing the work as well. And I got a bunch of stand-up dates coming up. You can check that out over at KPBurkSucks on Instagram. That being said, we do have a killer topic for you here today.
Yes, we do.
It has every part of a good American loser story,
And
I like
not,
to think.
not real hard to find a Jersey connection today.
No, this one was rather easy. And my favorite part is that we won't say what town Kahuna lives in, but yet again, this is
The small world we live in.
the historical references. There is a major part of today's story that takes place in one of your new backyards.
Are you kidding me?
Yep, we
Absolutely.
creeped him out last week with Ong's hat when he did a little Google and he goes, hang on, if I make how many wrong turns, I'm in another dimension?
Pretty much. Pretty much.
And thank you to Joe Conti for filling in last week. But now we can do something more scholarly effort here, Lawrence Patrick. So
We'll give it a go.
I'm going to say this one. When you die via hanging and it causes the first international incident in American history, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think you should be a little bit more well-remembered than with a restaurant and a few parks in New Jersey.
Small parks, too. They're not major.
Yeah,
major
Bon
league stuff.
Jovi gets a rest area,
County,
okay?
county parks.
This guy was, again, this is why I like this topic so much, and people are already going to know who we're talking about here. But if you've ever been to Huddy's Inn in Colts Neck, that place is kind of paying tribute to this gentleman, Joshua Huddy, we're going to talk about today, who, depending on who you're talking about or what circles you're talking within, he was either a hyper-violent bastard pirate criminal who used the cause of the American Revolution as a permission to vandalize things and murder people, or he was an American hero whose death still has yet to be avenged.
Kev, one man's...
All the above?
It's a little bit of everything. A little bit of everything. One man's terrorist is
One
another man's
man's
freedom
terrorist
fighter.
is another man's freedom fighter.
I hear you. But like I said, Bon Jovi gets a rest area, and his biggest accomplishment was working the beekeeper angle for a tax break. So, but when you read the tale of today's American loser, Joshua Huddy, you get all the ingredients in a quality American loser pie. A little hero combined with some questionable motives. Some people love him, some people hate him. And oh yeah, of course, the abrupt ending of his life and the legacy that outlives him.
That's it.
So folks, today, Joshua Huddy. Now, I'm going to ask the good man behind the Kahuna Vision over there. Cahoons, had you ever heard of this gentleman, Joshua Huddy,
I
beforehand?
have not, actually. No. I was going to say it does sound kind of familiar, but it's such an old-timey name that, like, you could have brought it up in passing, and I probably wouldn't have taken a second guess at it.
Yeah, he's pretty fascinating, man. If you, I'll tell you what, if you wouldn't mind bringing up the arrest photo.
The arrest?
The arrest photo. So that is...
I'm assuming he's in the middle.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Surrounded by swords and daggers and pistols and yeah.
Now, does he look like... What does he look like to you in that picture, Cahoons?
He looks like he has an excellent mustache.
Ooh, all right. Hang on. It is an excellent mustache. He's dressed kind of in American Revolutionary era regalia, but he's also got a little bit of a pirate flair going on to him, too. He looks rough around the edges, and he's certainly not being treated... it seems like his captors are wary of him, even as his hands are chained behind his back. So he's an interesting guy over here. He'll be born in Salem County, New Jersey, and he'll meet his death in Monmouth County, New Jersey. So when you die at the shore, folks, you die at the shore.
Born at the
When
shore,
you
die at the shore.
When you die at the shore, you die for real.
That's the problem, man. It could get way, way worse. Now, again, Salem County is interesting here. So it's technically he's born. He's the cause of death, by the way, is he is hung to death.
Got
or
his neck
hanged
stretched.
to death. Correct. So you can actually say he was
Ouch.
born, raised, and then raised again by the neck.
Oh, God damn, KP.
All in
Come
That's
on,
it.
man.
That's right. Made a little bit taller.
Yeah, that's bring out the tongue loosener.
He died 5'9", was buried 6'3".
That's right.
Oh man, it's now New Jersey, by the way, is considered the crossroads of the American Revolution. We talk about the show a lot because it's in our own backyard. We like to talk about weird things we drive past. We got a little bit of weird pride in the state, but it really is truly considered the crossroads of the American Revolution. Now that being said, it's mostly due to how integral its geography was during the whole. Think about it for a second. You have the two of the three biggest cities on the East Coast are New York and Philadelphia, right? New York, which falls in and out of American hands or Patriot hands versus Loyalist hands, and then Philadelphia, which is split kind of down the middle. That they're going to have the Congress is going to be meeting over there, and they're going to be writing out the Declaration of Independence, but also all the Loyalists are over there too. It's a strange.
Yeah, and the British did capture Philadelphia, which
Exactly.
was right.
And Boston is a wild, wild town up north, right? But there's still going to be some, the English are paying heavy attention up there. So if you like to look at it this way, you have New York City is one butt cheek, Philadelphia is the other butt cheek, and New Jersey, baby, we're that shitty part in the middle, all right? But without us, shit ain't happening.
That's right.
True. Without us, there's no tri-state area.
It's the truth on that one, man. And I'll tell you what, this is kind of worth mentioning here, too. New Jersey will host several large-scale battles, countless skirmishes, and then also several of Washington's own headquarters in our very own state at this time.
That's right.
And Joshua Huddy would join the ranks of the American Patriot cause in the 1770s. But first, he'd have to spend some time coming of age, if you will, or what other people would refer to as a misspent youth.
Misunderstood youth.
Yeah, we'll go with that one. So, Huddy grows
An
up in.
excitable boy.
Oh yeah. Okay, hey, anytime we can squeeze in a Warren Zevon reference on the show, I'm in. So, Huddy will grow up in Salem, New Jersey, where he is the oldest of 7 brothers. He is the grandson of a very well-known judge and is widely known as a troublemaking rebel. So much so, in fact, and this is how you know this was legit. Okay, he gets disowned by the Quakers. He's a Quaker. He's being raised in a Quaker community in Salem, New Jersey, and the Quakers are like, "Hey, you're out. Okay, enough of this stuff here. All right, we don't have time for your bad boy, nonsense. We're good, peaceful Quakers, and you like to gamble and whore around and get into fights and all sorts of no good is what this fellow stays
Questionable
up to.
activities. Yeah, and the Quakers in New Jersey, that was a pretty large population because, William Penn was in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania, and there was an overflow, if you will, of Quakers into New Jersey. So New Jersey had a pretty large Quaker population, South Jersey and North Jersey as well. But, yeah.
And a side note, George Washington is rumored to have hated the Quakers because he couldn't get them on board to fight.
Right.
Josh Huddy, he might have been raised a Quaker, but he was not afraid of getting into a fight.
Yeah.
So, his rebel streak will actually see him get arrested and convicted on several counts of assault, several counts of theft, sodomy.
That's not within the Quaker.
I'm just kidding. He didn't do that part. I wanted to make sure Cahoon is paying attention.
I'm like, why? Out of all the fucking things, there we go.
And specifically, this one was actually when he did some jail time for this, not paying his debts. I don't know if you remember, Cahoons, but there was a thing back in the day that loser devotees will remember, known as debtor's prison.
Yeah.
Which meant that until recently, when Joe Biden forgave all that student loan, the entire population that went to college should have been in prison. So even some of the most wealthy folks in America were not immune to that. Loserception, Robert Morris. So in order to get himself out of debtor's prison, Joshua Huddy was forced to sell a 300-acre. Dad, the house you live in now, how many acres is that?
5/8 of an acre.
5/8 of an acre.
Just a little squeak over a half acre.
So, if you had 300 of your property that you and my mother have retired to now, which is nearby the Huddy house, or Huddy's Inn, I should say.
I had a couple of good meals there. Absolutely.
It's a good spot. It's a good place to talk a little treason in the back rooms.
That's right.
Yeah, shout out Tyler Prysock. But if you had 300 of those, you still would not have as much property as Joshua Huddy was forced to sell to get out of jail.
Good Lord.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
To get out of debtor's prison. And 300-acre plantation at that particular point in time, too. That's a sizable tract of land. That's not like today's standards where you have mechanized farming. This is all, hand grunt work.
Well, I'll tell you what. We're going to do a little foreshadowing here because you know what I'm going to throw to you for in a little bit.
All right.
So don't say the guy's name, but you did do a little research because I believe you stumbled upon something. Different communities, specifically different like religious sects, they kind of approached the idea of slavery differently. You had indentured servitude, where they were bringing people over and you would work for a rich lord for 7 years and then be freed. And then the Quaker community, you kind of stumbled upon something here that maybe they were, and again, it's such a difficult thing here. So I'm going to say it out loud again, all right? The official policy of American Loser.
American Loser. We all stand together on
is
this.
people shouldn't own people.
That's it.
Not hard to say.
Slavery is a bad thing.
So
This is Big Kahuna, and I approve this message.
unlike Ken Krantz and his show I Love Rock and Roll, where they are pro-slaves. I couldn't even get through it.
No, you couldn't. You tried doing it with a straight face, and you just failed. Oh, that was great.
Oh, man. Ken will never hear it. He's not on this episode. I love Ken Krantz. He has a great show called I Love Rock and Roll that the Kahuna is also a part of. So check that one out and support it, man. He's great. We love him. That's why we tease him so much. But you found out something interesting about how the Quakers, their handling of slavery for the most part, and then that this person was a misnomer within that for later on. So don't give away the name, but kind of a cool fact you found out.
At this particular point in time, New Jersey happened to be the second largest slaveholding colony. We're not states yet; we're colonies, but the second largest slaveholding colony in the North. Now, down south is a whole different story, but New Jersey was only second only to New York as far as the amount of people that were in bondage, in servitude. And the estimate is about 8,200 slaves within New Jersey at this particular time. Now, that might sound like a relatively small number, but you got to remember the population is not really large
I think
at this point either.
Per capita is probably the way you got to frame that.
Right. But the Quakers at this particular point in time are starting to come around to the idea that maybe slavery is not a good idea.
You don't say.
As a religious organization, if you will, their beliefs were that if you did have slaves, you should educate them, and you should also set them free upon their 21st birthday. So, once you achieve the age of 21, it'd be a good idea that you're going to now set this person free and also equip them for life a little bit better by having them be able to read and write.
Hey, that's not a bad 21st birthday.
Yeah,
you get your freedom and you can drink now.
Yeah.
Right?
You're right. Right, and you can write down your order.
Also true.
Yeah.
So that's the way that the Quakers were kind of handling that. Now that doesn't mean that everybody in the community was handling this with a gentle approach to it, because the guy we're going to talk about in a second was treated like a total piece of shit.
I mean, we're still talking about we'll set him free at 21. I mean, those first 21 years though, they're ours, baby.
We're going to work you like a rented mule.
Even worse.
Coons, wait till you hear about.
Yeah.
You loaded the picture up. When we talk about the gentleman we're going to refer to as Colonel T, you pity the fool that crosses Colonel T. You understand? Right?
It's about time to pull up a photo.
Not yet, because he comes in towards the last half of the story. But he's. This is a great casting couch for you.
Ooh, we haven't done one of those in a minute.
You got it. And I'll tell you what, Josh Huddy is such a character, too, that you're going to get a kick out of him. So I start thinking about it as we tell the story. Colonel Ty was his official name.
Okay.
And then also Josh Huddy. Try to think of people to cast for those two right there. It's pretty good stuff.
Copy that.
Now, ladies like the bad boys, all right? So, of course, which is why I struggle here. It's I'm too nice of a guy, they say.
Yeah, you're just too sweet.
I am. Our girl Chelsea told me I have beautiful eyes. That's all she's discovered about the most recent, video incarnation of this show. Yeah, but it is what it is. My voice is nice too, but I'm too nice. That's the problem. So, anyway,
You need an edge, Kev.
that's why I just say bitch at the end of every sentence now.
There you
Try
go.
to fake being a tough guy. But old Joshy, by the way, is never going to be without a lady by his side. His first wife, Mary Borden, who will sadly pass away before her husband could reach his final form, which is American pirate. Huddy will father 2 daughters with Mary, though. Now, in the 1770s, as tensions are rising in the colonies and a movement towards independence is becoming, really something unavoidable, New Jersey isn't. They're pretty much divided into 3 real groups when it comes to the thoughts on the matter of revolution. 1/3 of the population is behind the Patriot cause and pro-revolution.
Hoorah!
Another third of the population is staunchly loyalist to the British Crown.
God save the king.
Well, we tried with the Queen. It didn't go so good,
Well,
Sorry
at
about
that
that.
time, it's the king.
That also true, too. But, topical.
Okay. Yeah, I understand.
What
Current
are we-
events.
Well, everyone on the show's Irish, so. But anyway, then that's the other third, right, is going to be staunchly loyalist to the British Crown, and the last third does not care. Okay, I got
That's right.
to get out there and got to feed these hogs.
Yeah, leave me the F alone and let me get on with my life.
Yeah, and the way to get most of them on board is that they would sit there and they would say, the Patriot cause would come over and say, hey, they call it Taylor ham up north. It's pork roll, damn it.
That's right.
And then Central Jersey, we don't give a shit.
Someday, Cahoon, I'll tell you my Central Jersey joke, and you can decide whether or not to put me through a wall for it.
Fair enough. I got you. I'll have LP build me like a sheet of drywall that I could just throw you
There you
through
go.
just for the
There you go.
occasion.
For the smack. Maybe try to break him with this table.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Okay.
yeah, Ming will love that.
A little different than a folding table from the wrestling, but
That'll get us kicked out of here finally. But now it's interesting because Joshua Huddy is immediately in the first third. Of course, what is a wild boy to do when given a chance to rebel against the system that saw him thrown behind bars? Sure, he'd been convicted of assault before, but that's what made him so worthy of his eventual commission in 1777 as a captain in the Monmouth County Militia. All right? G-dubs, that's what we call George Washington on this show. G-dubs needed men ready to fight that also knew how to fight. So what better way to harness a rebel without a cause than to give this rebel a cause?
a cause.
So they're figuring it all out on that one, man. And, of course, we are here at the Bell Works, too, so some calamity is going to take place in the background at some point. If you can hear that, I apologize.
Don't jinx us.
Oh, step class is coming in, guys. There's a clogging event upstairs.
Yeah, now, too, you ought to tell the listeners, he got from Salem County. Now he's up in Monmouth County. Did you get into how he came about to be moving on up into Monmouth County from South Jersey to Central Jersey?
Well, moving on up.
There's some of that, but also he is that wild boy reputation kind of gets him given the swift kick in the ass out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's the old hometown ain't quite what it used to be, or receiving him quite well. But it was by his second marriage that he came up to the Colts Neck area.
So he bails from Salem County, New Jersey.
Right.
Now he's up in Monmouth County, New Jersey. So
Yeah.
that part's going to be wild there.
And that's why he was appointed to, a leadership role within the Monmouth County Militia.
And just because he was given the commission in 1777 does not mean that he wasn't active in the militia prior. This is a kind of wild time in the American Revolution.
Right.
This is prior to French support, but well after Saratoga. Specifically, the next event takes place in the fall, leading up to Washington's pivotal winter over at Valley Forge. Okay? So Jersey is a hotbed of action due to the Cannonball Trails. Shout out Doc Schweikart. I don't think any of them watch this, but you know,
right.
some of the
There you go.
couple of
of the other.
yeah, Charlie Curcio and Chris Hollenbeck's ears
They'll
just
get
perked
it.
up a little bit. But skirmishes and raids throughout the area, and of course, Josh Huddy is in the middle of the heat of what is being known as Bloody Monmouth, or Monmouth Mayhem. Monmouth County was, I did not realize this, almost like a bleeding Kansas type thing. For because you had strong loyalist population, you had a strong patriot population, and it's sitting there and it's like, hey, you can't talk politics out loud at this is talking politics at Thanksgiving dinner every day for a couple of years, and things get angrier and more elevated as they go.
Yeah, and plus the fact you still have the British Army at this point is stationed in New York, and what's just across the water from New York City is Monmouth County, and there'd be a lot of British raiding parties and everything else looking for supplies and livestock and everything else within the wilds of New Jersey. And Monmouth County, as I say, is just a short boat ride over from New York City. So this became literally the crossroads within the crossroads that there was some very strong. A lot of the loyalists who were still, loyal to the crown. You got the British Army in New York City. We're not going to get too frisky outside of that.
And for those who don't know, for those that don't know, you can see New York City from Sandy Hook. So could you have seen it with as much ease back then without the skyscrapers and everything? Probably not. But you could still see that landmass over there. That's New York.
You could still see the firelight going on over there. And Sandy Hook was the kind of like the gateway to the entrance of the harbor of New York City. So Sandy Hook, New Jersey, became very important strategically to protect the harbor of New York.
Without a doubt, too. So. Again, center of the universe, but not on purpose, okay? We didn't have to shoehorn this one in. This actually just is the center of the universe at this time. So now, again, hotbed of action over here in Monmouth County. Joshua Huddy is in the middle of it, and his popularity amongst his men is becoming widespread, and his courage and tenacity are becoming something worth noting amongst the Patriot cause, of which they're like, this guy's kind of badass. And then also the British and the Loyalists are sitting there like, this is a terrorist. This man is a pirate.
Right.
There's no honor in the way he fights here. This guy is he can't wait. Blood is on his mind 24/7.
And being in Monmouth County, he is literally in their backyard.
Imagine living down the street from a guy who's capable of great violence against your cause.
Now, he came to the Monmouth County area. I'm going to refer back to this, Kev, because I think it's important for the story later. He's in Monmouth County, and actually, his first wife dies, and he marries for a second time. Again, there's little speculation as to why that happened, but he's able to profit from the second marriage because the widow that he married was the owner now of the Colts Neck Inn, a very, very predominant landmark here in Monmouth County. So he's very familiar with Monmouth County and the surrounding area. Now that's his new home.
Yeah, that's we're talking about he's not officially a pirate yet, but he has all the pirate qualities.
That's right.
He's a party goer, kicked out of the Quakers, had to leave his own hometown, and now he's going to marry a chick with her own bar. So
who could ask for more? Right?
Exactly. So,
I'd watch the fuck out of that sitcom.
The sitcom would be good. The action movie we're about to get into is pretty damn good too. So
First Blood.
Oh, it's outstanding here. Now, again, he is attracting attention for both good and bad things from his those who would be his allies and also those who would become his enemies. He wasn't exactly a soldier, but there is some warrior DNA in his blood, and that was what was needed at the time. So, barely a month after receiving his official commission as a captain, Huddy is alleged to have taken part in one of the acts that will lead to his own demise. Got a little Greek tragedy thing going on here, okay? We already revealed that he's going to die via hanging, so spoiler alert, but
Stretch neck.
Right.
You mean stretch neck syndrome?
Stretch
neck.
neck.
Right.
But in October of 1777, Huddy is said to have led the raid on the house of Stephen Edwards, who was a known loyalist in nearby Shrewsbury, New Jersey, a known loyalist and a highly suspected spy. They thought that Mr. Edwards was feeding information back to the British, and Huddy wasn't going to be having any of that shit, not in his own backyard.
Yeah, Edwards had some very close contacts in New York City, and it was alleged that he's feeding information back to New York City, which is also now the headquarters for the entire British Army. So he was not looked upon favorably by the patriots of Monmouth County.
No. And by the way, at this point, people ask us how we do the research for the show, and it is exhausting sometimes to try to write a proper research paper, and then sometimes you screw up, and then my buddy Ben Barbie from the Navy has to let me know that I screwed up.
Correction.
Yeah, and that we were calling Colonel Travis, we were calling him Travis Scott, who is the rapper musician, and I had a brain fart and just got it completely wrong here. So it is tough to try to keep up with this. I like it when people correct us on things. There's ways to do it too.
Means
by the
you're
way.
listening.
It means you're listening.
That's
Yeah,
right.
there you go.
No, there's ways to do it. It's but at this point in the research, it reminded me of how much we learned about the War of 1812 when my father and I watched a documentary made from the British perspective by the British for British entertainment purposes, and it was those no good Americans were up to their bullshit again.
Right.
So our approach on the show, which is sometimes flawed, is to try and read both sides of accounts and attribute the truth to somewhere in the middle. That's where I like to think it always is. To get a proper account of the incident, we will talk to both sides on this one. So according to the Patriot cause, Stephen Edwards, a young man recently married, was a known loyalist and strongly suspected spy for the king. From a book called The Loyal Son, whose author we will discuss shortly, or I don't know if he's actually the author, but he would be the central figure of it. I believe it is a work of nonfiction. Joshua was proud. Okay, Joshua Huddy, our pirate badass boy here in Jersey of the Patriot cause, is proud to have been a lead, if you will, in the capture of Edwards. And this Stephen Edwards fella, again in Shrewsbury, is alleged to have been hidden by his wife under the bed sheets, and when captured was dressed in one of the maid's outfits. Okay, and just a reminder, this is Stephen Edwards, not J. Edgar Hoover. So,
Right.
Huddy is rumored to have been the man that took him into custody and supposedly bragged about greasing the noose Edwards would be hung with just a few days later. So when he was sitting there, that's like a bragging rights thing. Like, oh, but yeah, I heard you were involved with the Stephen Edwards capture. I captured him, and hell, I greased the noose before we strung that boy
Right,
up.
just to make sure it went quick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I think the best way to portray this is that you've got vigilantes on both sides. I mean, there's vigilante loyalists and there's vigilante patriots, and depending on whose side you want to be on, will flavor the story, if you will. So, I mean, these people are going out and, hey, that guy's a loyalist. Let's capture him and stretch his neck. And then there would be retaliation back and forth by the other side, and they're going to capture some patriot and stretch his neck. So, or capture all his wealth and turn it over to the British forces, or whatever the case might be. But yeah, it was a wild time here in Monmouth County for sure. That there were no laws. It's vigilante, ruled by the gun, if you will.
And of course, like you said, depending on who you're talking to, you could tell the story and it would be completely accurate. Of they captured a spy and his wife was trying to hide him, and he was in his in his bed with his wife, being hidden under the covers. And then they captured the spy, and then the other side of it would be like, can you believe these animals went into this man's house and tore him out of bed with his wife?
At night, pulled him from his marital bed. And
oh yeah. They didn't hang him right then and there. He did kind of sit a little bit of a trial at first, which is important here because there is some decorum,
right.
if you will, for lack of a better term. But Edwards will be hung just a few days later, and Huddy captured and helped execute a British spy and a traitor to his patriot cause, as far as he was concerned. So the other account is that Huddy, and this comes from that book, The Loyal Son, we were talking about here, and this is where we get into it in a second, but Huddy, a hyper-violent pirate type with a long black beard and earring, was bragging about killing a man via hanging with little evidence and violating the man's home and his own rights. This take was popular among loyalists who respected Patriot leaders but found men like Huddy to be downright despicable. So the leaders of the Loyalists in New Jersey was actually this is their full-on leader. This is the guy that they were all coming to here.
Right.
He actually happens to be the last governor. Now I know you want to put some emphasis on this, so give it the little elbow grease. I know you got it.
Yeah, this guy is the last royal governor of the colony. In other words, he's the governor of New Jersey, but he was appointed by the king to be governor. So you can have all your local elections that you want, but the king is going to decide who is going to be the governor of New Jersey, or the colony of New Jersey, and that was.
In this particular case, guy's name is, and Kuna, tell me if you've heard of him before.
Okay.
This was the last governor, last royal
governor of New
Jersey. William Franklin.
Wait a minute.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
Really?
So William Franklin, who, by the way, is a staunch supporter of the British Crown.
How come I don't learn how come I didn't learn cool shit like this in history class?
Because
Blame your teacher.
History is not boring. Your teachers were.
But that's just it. Is like I had good history teachers, but I feel like when you live in a particular state, I feel like sometimes it'd be cool to just be like, "Hey, guess what? Here's some fucking fun facts you didn't know about." Jesus Christ, that's awesome.
That's why this show works the way it works. So we get to present some stuff that got skipped over in the history books, or you got one little line. You're like, "Oh, and by the way, Ben Franklin's son was the Loyalist governor."
Yeah, Ben Franklin. You heard of him, right, Coons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Ben Franklin's son who remains loyal to the crown to the point where it tears their family apart. So you have the intellectual godfather of the American Revolution, slinging his chlamydia-ridden dick all over France on behalf of us, okay? Pretty much becoming the pimp of Philadelphia, and also hilariously naming the Leeds family devil, the devil down in Jersey.
This is the story, all about how.
But his son William, who was, and they say, I was not able to disprove this, Franklin Township and Franklin Lakes Township are named after him in his honor, and I believe both townships are older than the American Revolution. They're older than the country, I believe. So they were named after the last royal governor, who again was William Franklin here. And because he's a staunch supporter of the crown, he's actually placed under house arrest. And while he's doing so, they move him around to Connecticut for a while and everything up there. He organizes a spy ring and supports the Loyalist cause openly, resulting in extended stays under his house arrest.
Yeah, he gets out of New Jersey just for his own safety and security with all these Patriot vigilantes, if you will, running around the neighborhood. But he gets out of New Jersey, but he's still ruling the Loyalists who remained in New Jersey and the surrounding area. And just to apply a little more clarification to this, he is the acknowledged illegitimate son of Benjamin Franklin. And Ben Franklin never really revealed who the mother was, but he did acknowledge that, yeah, William is my son by another woman other than the woman I was married to at the time.
I believe I might be confusing things here, but according to Dr. Tristan Vigorero, I believe his mother was actually a Targaryen, and therefore Ben Franklin came from the Iron Throne. Okay. I think that's right. I'm not sure.
All right. Well, if you see some dragons flying overhead, well, maybe that's where the Jersey Devil comes in, because he had dragon qualities.
I hear you, man. The Jersey Devil was the mother.
All right. We'll let Dr. Fredero research that a little deeper.
That's the one? The guy you've known for 15 years? You're going to stumble over his name?
Yeah, sorry.
A hyper-violent pirate guy is still the key part of this story here, but we could not move forward with his story without acknowledging how crazy it is that the acknowledged yet illegitimate son of Ben Franklin, who's pro-patriot, is now going against his father, to the point where the two of them really, it strains their relationship severely. They do keep in some contact, but it's mostly about business dealings and stuff like that in terms of the estate and the family and everything. And he certainly is not. His name's getting crossed out of the will, not entirely, but there's,
Yeah, he's not the favorite son.
Exactly.
Of which Ben had many.
So now he's got a couple other interesting things going on here, too, because when he was finally released after these extended house arrests, he's finally released in a prisoner exchange. He was sent to Loyalist-occupied New York, where he remained one of the most well-known Loyalist leaders for the Tories. which is strange because, like we were saying, who his father is, that's a little bit crazy. Probably why he was given some preferential treatment, too. Like, hey, I know he's on the other side of this argument, but it's also Ben Franklin's kid. What are you going to do?
Right.
So, anyway, he winds up over in New York. And as you said, Dad, too, the loyalists in New Jersey are still considering him their governor because they're not acknowledging this new. We're British subjects. We're not, beholden to these laws that a couple of drunks wrote down in a hall in Pennsylvania.
In Philadelphia, yeah.
Exactly. So, I'm not going to allow my life to be dictated to me by some jerk off from Virginia,
Or some roustabouts up in Boston.
Also true. Now, according to William Franklin's accounts, the murderous, violent rebel, Joshua Huddy, should be put down like a mad dog. His agents in Jersey relished the thought of his death. They very nearly got their revenge on Huddy during an attack on his own homestead. Huddy is widely believed to have fought at the battles of Germantown and the Battle of Monmouth, where loserception, Charles Lee, the douchebag of the American Revolution, go check that episode out, nearly cost us the entire revolution by spending too much time at a whorehouse. All right? But this is not a proper pitched battle like those were. Huddy had proven himself to be an unconventional warrior. That's where the pirate kind of reputation comes from. He specializes in harassing British supply lines in Monmouth County. Those that don't know, that's the northern part of the Jersey Shore. Okay, like I said, at Atlantic Highlands and the Highlands, you can actually see New York City from there. Again, just to give you the geography out if you're not from here. Now, it's pretty wild, too. British blockades effectively took over Boston, New York, and Philly at various times during the Revolution. The only hope that smaller Patriot supply boats had was to operate near land and hope to avoid detection. Only problem is the American Navy really isn't much of anything at this point.
Yeah.
All right, and this is before our friends over in France are going to send over their actual man-of warships. These are mostly fishing vessels.
Is it safe to say that they ain't shit?
Yeah. It's a McHale's Navy more than a
They're a
U.S.
pissant
Navy.
Copy
compared to the largest navy in the world at the time, which was the British Navy.
Well, that leads to an interesting idea, though, here. If these boats need somebody that's going to be actually able maybe to pull off some guard missions or maybe go out and harass the ships there to maybe be a decoy while they're trying to pull in some munitions or food supplies, stuff like that. Josh Huddy, he walks like a pirate, he talks like a pirate. We got this pirate-style gunboat. What if we let him be the captain of it and he names it the Black Snake? And then all we do is we write him up these little things called letters of marque.
Doesn't sound like a pirate.
Marquis.
Well, letters of marque are actually going to allow him to become a state-sanctioned pirate, which is known as a privateer.
Privateer. You're not a pirate now. You're
Exactly.
a privateer. You're working.
You're a pirate on the books.
You're working for a government. No,
I
it happens
think
to be
I'm
a
right.
rebel government, but you're still working for a government.
It's got papers.
That's right. I got documentation right here.
That used to happen all the time, too, that privateers would find out that their papers were revoked or not acknowledged by a new administration, and then,
Right.
boom, there'd be issues coming down from that one.
While you were away, we signed a peace treaty, and you're no longer a privateer. But
And I'm pretty sure it's letters of marque. I'm pretty sure that's how that's pronounced, too. The reason being is because I think Stacey Dash had a lingerie line called Letters of Marque, and I've Googled it.
There you go.
Research.
There you go.
Alone
What better?
in the engine room on the USS Kearney.
There you go.
Please don't proceed forward with any of that.
Enough of that.
It was 2009.
I was lonely.
And welcome to the Kahuna Show. Hey, what's going on, people? How you doing, guys?
Larry Madison was asleep.
All right.
Come on.
All right, so now I'm KP. Hey, so the rest of this, let's go down the rest of this paper, Dad. So,
Yeah.
so proceed. What's going on?
All right. Well, now Huddy will become the pirate king of New Jersey. Now, he's not this Black Snake. His ship was named the Black Snake. It's not, Pirates of the Caribbean with all kinds of guns and cannon and
So no fun.
flying the Jolly
No,
Roger and all
it's still
this
fun.
shit.
It's more Mad Max, but boats.
Yeah, it's a small boat with a swivel gun on the front of it. So
I like that more.
You do have some firepower, but you're bringing a knife to a gunfight, but you're still able to capture some British supply ships and that kind of stuff. So
But what's a good pirate without a great pirate escape story, Dad?
Yeah.
All the great pirate movies have the captain escaping or I thought they were on this ship, but now they're on that ship. And of course, Johnny Depp is a genre-defying performer in terms of, Captain Jack Sparrow here. But
Right.
this is Captain Josh Huddy, and he, of course, has to have a great escape story. And it's going to be on the high seas, though, right, Dad?
Yep, on the high. No, not really.
No, it's going to be in landlocked Colts Neck, New Jersey.
Yeah.
So Huddy had been taking his license to pirate a little too seriously, and the Loyalists decided that it was time for a raid of their own. Many in the area are still demanding retribution for what they saw as the murder of Stephen Edwards, the guy that was, Huddy claims to have greased the rope for and been involved in the apprehension of.
Dragged out of bed, dude.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
yeah.
would. Yeah,
Oh,
he would.
yeah.
He'd brag about that one, but now they're coming for him.
Well, the raid is going to, and Acuna, whenever you're ready, don't bring it up just yet, but the raid is being led, this loyalist British raid is being led by a fellow who's known as Colonel Ty. So go ahead and bring that photo up of Colonel T. And you pity the fool that messes with Colonel T. This guy has an incredibly fascinating story. Again, known as Colonel Ty. I believe that was short for Colonel Titus. Dad, who the fuck is Colonel Ty?
Colonel Ty is Titus Cornelius is his full given name. He's actually a former slave from Monmouth County. So he's a hometown boy, a Monmouth County boy that is a slave to a Quaker, a guy by the name of John Carlisle. And John is a Quaker, but he's really not following the Quaker mantra, if you will, that you're supposed to educate your slaves and then set them loose upon their 21st birthday. Colonel Ty, or Titus, or Ty, is approaching his 21st birthday, and this guy, John Carlisle, he owns 4 slaves, and his mother owns an additional 2. So within that family, there's 6 slaves, and they're being mistreated big time, to the point where the rest of the Quakers in the community
You don't say.
have something to say about it. Yeah, that maybe you shouldn't be whipping your slaves and mistreating your slaves, and as far as the education part of it, that was out the window as far as Carlisle was concerned. And he's being called out by the rest of his Quaker brethren, if you will. And Ty is close to his 21st birthday, and he skips out. He runs away. He's a runaway slave. And Carlisle
Kind of has to,
Yeah, Carlisle then puts out a reward for his capture and return to him. And right at the same time, there's the Royal Governor of Virginia. Now, the Royal Governor of Virginia, things are heating up in the early part of the Revolutionary War, to the point where the Royal Governor in Virginia sees what all this shit going on up in Boston and surrounding areas and stuff, and even down around Charleston in his own backyard, that he declares martial law. And he comes up with this idea that any slave or indentured servant. Now, an indentured servant is not necessarily a slave, but you're basically working as a slave or in servitude for a set period of time rather than a lifetime type of a thing. But he comes up with this law, this John Murray from Virginia. Again, he's the royal governor, and he declares this by proclamation that any indentured servants or slaves who run away from their masters and fight for the British cause are going to be set free. That sounds pretty good to Ty, and he actually heads off from Monmouth County, New Jersey, sets off on foot for Virginia, and joins up with something that was called the Ethiopian Brigade, which was this army of indentured servants and slaves that this royal governor of Virginia kind of puts together, with the idea that not only are they taken away economically from the rebels, but they're also producing more fighting troops for the British cause.
There was a weird conundrum too, just in one of the other pictures of Colonel Ty that I didn't include with this, where it was, because I couldn't tell if it was done as a political cartoon or not, but it was a drawing, and it was
not kind.
slave. No, it was slavery. It was actually pro-positive for him, but it was a slave of liberty, is what I think they kind of had painted on his shirt or something like that.
Yeah,
it was the idea of like, I'm going to fight for liberty so that I can stay a slave. That would be great.
Yeah, yeah.
So if they're offering to grant you your freedom by fighting for the British, then they're gonna do their time there. I think there were some other deals too, with if you fought for the Revolution for a full year, you could earn your freedom or something. But definitely the British had the more lenient thing on there because they were actually putting, like you said, that Ethiopian corps into battle.
Yeah, so there's estimates that over 100,000 slaves escaped during the Revolution from their American slave owners, if you will, to fight for the British, or not necessarily fight for the British, but at least do the skedaddle from.
Kahuna's cheering for the British right now. What's happening?
That's it. That's it.
I heard escape, thought was great. Then I heard the last part of the sentence. I retract my.
So anyhow,
Fuck the Brits.
No, I'm sorry.
Hey, we have British listeners.
That's right. That's right. They're cheering on the other side of the pond.
Sorry about your queen.
Yeah, right. Condolences. But
Amy Winehouse?
Ty allegedly fights a couple of battles in Virginia, although there's no proof positive of that. But anyhow, the royal governor of Virginia then takes up the remaining forces and ships them up to New York, where again, British are headquartered in New York at the time. So they takes whatever remaining troops they have out of Virginia and moves them up to New York City. And then Ty, being he's so familiar with the Monmouth County area, is leading various raiding parties into northern New Jersey, or central New Jersey in Monmouth County. And he's, aiding in the capture of supplies and goods and other Patriot leaders from the Patriot militia. And he's making a name for himself because he's very familiar with the ins and outs, the back roads,
Smart guy,
the
good
swamps,
soldier.
right? And very aggressive kind of a thing. And in that same battle of Monmouth, he proves he proves himself once again. In the Battle of Monmouth, the same one that Huddy was involved with. There's Ty is fighting, and he is able to capture one of the captains of the Monmouth militia. So, was Ty hiding in the bushes looking for some of the people that he might have known? That's all speculation. But I just thought it was kind of interesting that in his one of his first battle actions in Monmouth, he captures Elijah Shepard, the Monmouth County captain of the Monmouth County militia. So, and then brings him back to New York City as a prisoner. So, Colonel Ty is really making a name for himself. And
Colonel T, pity
Colonel
the fool
T,
that crosses him.
and although the British never really gave him the rank of colonel, formally, they gave him in name only, if you will, the rank of colonel because he's doing such a great job. And he's really the leader of this slave and indentured servant. So he's in a multi-race division, if you will, or regiment. That he's got some roughnecks, he's got some former slaves, he's got some former indentured servants. The term that I found, too, going back to some of our previous episodes, some of the cowboys of the area, some of the real rough and readies, if you will.
I thought Bon Jovi was the only New Jersey cowboy.
Yeah, but Ty now becomes or takes the title of Colonel Ty, and he's leading this band of irregular guerrilla fighters, if you will, that are sneaking in and capturing livestock and supplies. And
well, what better prize could there be?
Yeah, and he's given the task of go find this guy Huddy. Now Huddy is the owner now of the Colts Neck Inn, so that's in Monmouth County. He knows that area pretty well. And another little side note that I found very interesting too is that part of this group that Colonel Ty is now leading is some of the Queen's Rangers. Now, the Queen's Rangers they were stationed primarily in Long Island and Staten Island, so now they've got some of these Queen's Rangers, British soldiers, that are coming over to fight with Colonel Ty, or part of Colonel Ty's group. And the Queen's Rangers harken back to Rogers Rangers, which from the French and Indian War in the early part of
which were the mighty morphing.
Right, and also went to the Nathan Hale capture with Robert Rogers.
Double loserception there. Robert Rogers, okay, and then also Nathan Hale.
Nathan Hale.
By the way, if you bring up that picture of the guy being hung there, Gona, where it says hang. That is, Dad's correct on that one. That is Nathan Hale being executed, who we did. That was our first episode back when we were illegally recording during COVID. So
Shh, we had masks.
It's over now.
That's
all right. There's only 87,000 new IRS
We had
agents.
6 feet of separation. We had masks on and hand sanitizing, and we had all the proper protocols.
You called in from Florida, so you were fine.
There you go. That's a little more than 6 feet of separation.
Yeah.
But anyhow, at this point in time, the Queen's Rangers are led by another guy that was John Simcoe. Anybody who's watched that Turn, that TV episode of Turn, that Simcoe was another British scumbag that was terrorizing the colonials. But anyhow, so it's interesting that this former slave is now leading both whites and blacks in this raiding party into New Jersey to try to capture Huddy. And they're going after him, and they know where he's at, or at least they've got a really good idea.
Yeah, Huddy's a bit of he likes to drink and fight, and he's also, owns this Colts Neck Inn.
Right.
So he's probably going to be there. That's the best way to go find him. So in the middle of the night, they launch this raid, and it's definitely outnumbering him. But Huddy is such a wild boy that a 2-hour gunfight breaks out, Kahuna. A 2-hour gunfight, with Huddy holding off the British troops from within his own tavern, okay? The captain of the Black Snake would eventually be forced to surrender as the British set fire to the inn that was also his home, okay? He turns himself over only after being assured that the fire will be put out, and the only other gunfighter on his side, his 20-year-old mistress named Lucretia Edwards, all right? Huddy always had a chick.
Who also happened to be a woman of color.
Did she really?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
Didn't know. Lucretia, it was one of those names back then that could have just been anything, you know what I mean? So
now what was interesting, too, with that the firefight that lasted for 2 hours.
Here's the key, yeah.
As Huddy now has this he's completely surrounded. The only people in the building are himself and Lucretia. And, he's already outnumbered, but apparently he had quite the stockpile of muskets and firepower within the building. So while Lucretia is reloading, he's firing from all different vantage points, from all different windows.
Let's see. I bet you the Kahuna can figure out why this is cool. So now they're outnumbered. But they don't know how many people are inside the Colts Neck Inn here.
Wait a minute, they're playing whack-a-mole with guns?
Essentially. They're popping out of a different window. So now that makes them think that
I love that.
Is it 1 mole or is it 15 moles?
Right.
And Colonel Ty and everybody are sitting there like, shit, how many people are in there? Let's not be hasty in trying to jump in there and be here. If they had known it was just him and his 20-year-old mistress, they might have thought, hey, maybe somebody can go knock the door down.
Yeah.
But he agrees to be taken into custody here. Okay?
Yeah, they set fire to the house, and with that,
and he secures to make sure that Lucretia will be unharmed. By the way, that's why he agrees to the surrender.
They set fire to the house, and then they agree that, the British side agrees that we're not going to harm the Lucretia, and we'll help put the fire out if you surrender. So he agrees to those terms.
And he's surrendering as an officer, too. That's being the other thing as well. He is a commissioned officer in the American military, so the thought is that he'll at least be – they're not going to string him up right there in front of the inn. They are going to – there's some – again, I keep using the word decorum.
Right.
There has to be something.
But there's
done
rules
here.
in the art of war.
It's a
Yeah, right.
So again,
It's
from
not
here,
like Vietnam where we run the rules. Shout out to the Big Lebowski.
yeah, the skateboard. Oh, we need that one over here. Come on, Ming, bring some nice toys over here. All right, I know you like Red Bank more than this place, but from there, Huddy is taken into custody by Colonel Ty from Rumson, New Jersey. Okay, Ty would be put on a. I'm sorry. Here, let me make sure. Dreaded prison ship. Okay.
Yeah, he's captured. Colonel Ty captures Huddy, and now they're taking him back to New York.
They're going to go to Rumson, New Jersey, which is along the river, which is right near the Highlands over here. Ty will put the dreaded pirate on a boat to New York City, where he certainly will face the prison ships and possibly the gallows. Now, we talked about the British prison ships and how brutal those conditions were. I mean, that was the prison ships monument over in Brooklyn. Kahuna, you know that because it was like everything in the 90s was being filmed over there.
Yeah.
But anyway, as they're starting to move this ship, and Huddy's realizing, he goes, "Oh man, I might die on one of those prison ships, or I wonder what's going to happen to me once they get me over into Loyalist New York. I'm leaving Jersey behind, where it was safe, where I'm a hero, and now I'm heading into New York, man."
He's captured.
It's a tough feeling, man. It's a tough feeling, but luckily Huddy has enough supporters that they start firing at the ship as it's going through the, I believe it's the
Down the river.
yeah, so they're firing from the river, so it's close enough, I should say. But they cause enough of a distraction and enough damage that the Patriots could hear their privateer captain scream, "I'm Huddy! I'm Huddy!" Kind of like an I'm Spartacus type moment, as he dives off the ship and swims safely to shore, escaping his captors, unscathed, minus a gunshot wound to the thigh.
What?
So, yes.
Yeah. I mean, Huddy is captured. Ty is taking him to a ship. He's now in the ship offshore. But meanwhile, Huddy's men, his militia, are chasing after these loyalist brigands that are now, captured their leader, and they're firing on him. And in the fracas, in the mayhem, Huddy jumps ship, and then he's now swimming to shore and shouting, "I'm Huddy! I'm Huddy! Don't shoot me, dude! I'm Huddy!"
He escaped. So now here's the interesting part here. So he gets a gunshot wound to the thigh, which he recovers from. Colonel Ty would certainly mount another attempt to capture Huddy, but the wound that he received during the escape was a gunshot wound to the midsection. Unfortunately, that wound will turn gangrene and will kill the noble colonel. So Colonel T, R.I.P.
Yeah, I think Colonel T took one in the wrist or something. It wasn't the midsection, but anyhow, he is wounded in the fracas now.
And dies from the wound via infection.
Right, via infection. I think 2 days later, and it was never really ascertained whether he received the wound at the gunfight with Huddy or later on in the
From
boat.
the ship.
Yeah. So anyhow, unfortunately, Colonel Ty meets his untimely end from gangrene.
So now Huddy is back in action, and his toughest enemy is on his deathbed. In the months that followed, William Franklin will begin to realize that if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. So Franklin and a loyalist militia will overwhelm Huddy's forces that were guarding a crucial meat storage fort in Toms River, New Jersey, Kahuna.
We don't get Kahuna vision on that one? There.
So, Cahoons, I'm going to take you to this place one time because former guest of the show, Angelo Gingerelli and Joe Borzata, two really great guys, they run a show over there. It's a monthly show at Battle River Brewing, where all of the beers are made right there on the premises, and all of them have American Revolutionary War themes to them. And I always thought that was interesting. I didn't realize how much Toms River was involved in this. And at work, for my day job, we have a guy who our boss refers to as Josh Huddy because his name is Josh. Turns out Josh is Polish, so his name is like Verstickten or whatever.
With a ski on the end.
But yeah, it was ski. But anyway, so Josh he has a real last name that our boss just calls him Josh Huddy instead, to the point where we all thought his last name was Huddy. And then I Googled Josh Huddy when like, oh wow, this is because my boss is like, oh, it's just named after a park down in Toms River, and I was like, hang on, Huddy House, Huddy Park,
Right.
Huddy. pirate New Jersey American. What?
And that's the deep research that American Loser does to find their next topic.
It really is. We just have to, like, can you believe it? And by the way, I do love that these things come to us.
Yeah.
That part's pretty cool.
It just fell in the lap.
So
I mean,
now,
especially when we live in the center of the goddamn universe.
it keeps proving itself. That's the problem. Shout
Yeah.
out Pat Dowden, who sent me a great sailor drawing for me for my birthday.
Yeah, actually, the blockhouse that Huddy is now in charge of in Toms River, I believe, was the site of that was right across the street from the Toms River Municipal Building. So that's
Which is pretty cool.
which is pretty cool, right?
Which I might be driving past very soon here too. Maybe I'll go there first before I disappear into Ong's hat.
Okay, so that's right. Don't make the wrong turn.
That's right. But now, again, this is a crucial meat storage area. They're going to be salting. It's a salt mill. They're going to salt the meat to cure the meat to then transfer it to the troops that are fighting probably up near Boston, Massachusetts area, maybe in upstate New York. Maybe some of that food's going up to Ticonderoga. You know, it's all about the supply lines here, and the Jersey Shore is so vast that small ships are able to get in and out of some of these inlets. You know, you go sneak around through, Forked River or something like that. If you got to evade a British ship that can't follow you into the shallow waters, there's ways to do it. This is a crucial point. This is a big assignment here. And they know that Huddy's in charge of this fort. So William Franklin and his loyalist militia will overwhelm Huddy's forces and capture him in Toms River. In capturing Huddy, the Loyalists also destroy much of the town, including its mills, only leaving 2 houses standing that both happen to be owned by Loyalists to the crown.
Yeah, right. Burn everything else.
Hey, what was your position on the whole American Revolution thing?
That's right.
Oh, I can't talk to you. I got to go inside my house real quick. You know, the thing you don't have anymore.
Oh, God.
But Captain Huddy has been captured again, and the attempt will be to send him to New York to face the prison ships one more time. Okay? Could he be hung once he's in New York? Will he be handled as an officer? Will he wind up on the prison ships off in the waters of Brooklyn and die a death possibly worse than the violent ones?
Or held for a prisoner exchange, which is also a possibility.
And yeah, it's a wild thing to think about here. But yet again, he escapes going to New York. He gets to stay in Jersey. Only this time, it's not exactly how he wanted it to go.
It's a long-term stay.
Yeah. Along the way, Loyalist Captain Richard Lippincott, who...
You made that up.
No, that's true.
He does have a bastard name, though, doesn't he? I'm going to say
That's
this
right
is
up
the
there
true...
with Schneidely Whiplash, Lippincott.
Yeah, I can't... You read Colonel Tye's story, and like, this guy's too cool to be a full-on villain. He's like maybe like a cool... Like, he's got like a Boba Fett. You know, he's not a Sith Lord kind of a thing. He's got a cool backstory, does his own thing. And then William Franklin, you're like, all right, there's some admirable things here. There's some awful things here. Lippincott is a D-bag. Captain Richard Lippincott would take over transfer of Huddy, and he and his men wouldn't go to New York, however. They instead go to Sandy Hook, okay, near the Atlantic Highlands area of New Jersey.
Again, Sandy Hook is a British outpost, if you will, from the New York City British. That it's a British stronghold, if you will, a loyalist stronghold.
Absolutely, and also happens to be a place where every Father's Day weekend,
That's another backstory.
Troop 104 used to go on camping trips where I get to hang out with this guy,
go.
and we would tour the old forts. And we would go play around on the old fortifications where we weren't supposed to go, but you knew we were going.
Yeah, just stay out of the poison ivy.
Yeah, it was all Hollenbeck's idea.
Right.
As we searched for the nude beach. But anyway, Huddy has been captured. He's now been taken by this Lippincott fellow who has no business really intervening here. But he goes, no, we're taking him. We'll take him to New York. Don't worry, guys. We got him. Takes him to Sandy Hook instead. They now, without...
Yeah, he went to New York, but only got part way there. I mean, he was on his way to New York.
You could see New York. So.
But they said, yeah, screw that ship stuff. We'll just deal with them here.
So instead of doing that without proper orders, they will allow Huddy to dictate his will on the beaches of Sandy Hook underneath the Navesink Hills, which is, to me, that's the most beautiful part of New Jersey. That's like I'm blown away every time I'm up there to find out that this grisly story takes place near there. Only makes it cooler. They allow Huddy to dictate his own will on the beach before he is hanged to death for his war crimes. A note is then placed on his body as it was left on the gallows to be found by his own men. As his body was swinging back and forth on the rope, the note read, "Up goes Huddy for Philip White." This now was revenge taken on Huddy for the hanging of a man named Philip White. Huddy maintained his innocence on this one, but was open to the fact about, hey guys, listen, I've done a ton of raids and a ton of bad shit. This one I didn't do. I'm telling you, I had nothing to do with this Philip White guy. There's plenty of reasons to hang me, folks. This just isn't, it's not the one. Get me for something I actually did, you know?
Get it right. Get it straight.
But Huddy knew that, by the way, he should have been, again, this is pretty nuts here, he maintained his innocence on this whole thing. He was open about the raids and other violence he had committed, but not to mention that as a privateer and also a commissioned officer, Huddy kind of knew this Lippincott fellow's going rogue here. I'm getting done dirty.
Yeah, and research that I had found, too, that they found him still swinging with the note pinned to him and the overturned barrel that he was standing on. That I guess they just kicked the barrel out from under him to give him the next stretch.
It's a gross way. It's a gross way to go. So our hero or loser of this story, Joshua Huddy, is now dead. When his men find his body, all the patriots of Monmouth County demand vengeance. The Monmouth patriots show up in great number at Huddy's funeral, which is held in Freehold. His body is buried and interred at the Old Tenant Church in Freehold. You can find his grave. Did I send you the grave or no? I can't remember if I did.
You did not.
So there's a grave marker, but I'm not sure where he's actually buried. But there is a marker.
Here's the key. Here's the key. He's worth having a marker.
Yeah.
Someone else in the story isn't. So there are now over 400 attendees at this funeral in Freehold, all of whom are demanding that Lippincott be turned over to the Patriots so that they can execute him for what he just did. Or if they're not being willing to give Lippincott over, we are going to take a British officer of the same rank, okay, captain or higher, that's in our POW camps, and we're going to execute them, and it's an eye for an eye, which leaves everyone blind, but also would satisfy the great injustice that the people of Monmouth County felt was put on their captain, Joshua Huddy. So failure to avenge Huddy's death would result in the Monmouth Manifesto, which was written by some of the very angry folks down the Jersey. Picture the Jersey Shore on steroids before it was on steroids. They promised a scene that would, quote, make violence that would make humanity itself shudder. So, and again, these are loyalists and patriots living in the same area. He goes, if we don't do something about this, we're going to march down the street, and every one of you Tory-loving bastards is going to pay for it. So now they're sitting there, and everybody's like, oh shit. Even G-Dubs, George Washington, is sitting there like, Cornwallis has already surrendered, okay, which is not the end of the war like a lot of people think. But again, that's a bad public education. Will tell you that when Cornwallis surrendered, that was it. That was over. There was a lot more going on. There were other forces here too.
But things are winding down. But there's still a lot of vigilante back and forth between patriots and loyalists, especially within the surrounding area of New Jersey.
And the same way that the British Crown had to think about, once this rebellion's put down, these are going to be our countrymen and our brethren again. We have to heal and move forward because you can't just kick everybody out. Okay, the same way that now the Americans, now that the tide has turned towards their favor, with France beginning to intervene and stuff like that, they're sitting there and saying, well, hey, just because they're loyalists doesn't mean they're not going to have any rights in this new country. We got to create a country for everybody, kind of a thing. So it puts G-Dubs in a very, very weird spot right now, because both George Washington, he's not Father Washington just yet. He's still General George Washington, American hero, American badass. He is completely against the hanging and condemns it. Says they never should have killed Captain Huddy. Also condemning the actions, Sir Henry Clinton of the British forces in New York. So that's the head honchos on both sides of this affair being like, hey, this shit shouldn't have happened, man.
Right.
Now, they attempt to delay the situation as the British say, well, listen, let us handle this Lippincott dude because he's a douche and he shouldn't have done this, but we got to handle it. We can't just hand him over to you guys. We're not going to, let us punish our misbehaving son. Yeah. Right. So anyway, they're going to give Lippincott a court-martial, but conveniently,
a British court-martial.
Yeah.
Right.
Kuna, do you think the British court-martial is going to have anything to say negatively about?
Is it still? Wait, no, I'm thinking of something else. No, it's not going to go well. I have a funny feeling.
Yes, it's like when a government agency, we have conducted a thorough investigation and determined that we did nothing wrong.
Oh.
An internal police investigation.
It's the war crimes units, stuff like that. No, what are you talking about?
We didn't do nothing.
So, anyhow, this is interesting here. Lippincott is found innocent by his own peers in this court-martial, who argue that his orders came from the true governor of New Jersey, William Franklin. He's a loyalist. His governor never changed. He's not beholden to this patriot government. William Franklin told him to do this, so he did it. And by the way, the British hadn't recognized any new authority in New Jersey still at this point, even though Cornwallis had surrendered. The war was not over. That's important to keep reminding you. Now, by this time, William Franklin is already now living in England. He goes, all right, Jersey's getting a little hot in the collar here for me, folks. I'm going to head on over to jolly old England. So he and his father's relationship at this point was pretty much colder than ice. William would never return to America. And by the way, he's buried somewhere in London. Joshua Huddy has a grave marker. They're not sure if it's on his correct body, but there's a grave marker reminding people who Joshua Huddy is. William Franklin's grave is
not so much
lost,
even in England.
Yep. So that's another way to. It's also like Benedict Arnold over there too, when he betrayed the cause and went over to live in England. That wasn't exactly like thank God you're here. Oh, our conquering, you could have been God. And look how Lafayette gets treated.
Yeah.
Okay, in America for showing up over here. Shout out to Cat Smith and Julian, by the way, over at the Lafayette Legacy. They do a great job there, and Kat's a very attractive woman. There I said. So, William would argue, by the way, against what's going to become known as the Astral Affair. Okay, so Coons, what we got for pictures? I think we have an unnamed one we're going to bring up.
No, we got Asgard.
Oh, I'll tell you what. Before we even do that, bring up father and son. Mm-hmm. So this is the start of a terrible podcast. Okay.
There you go.
No. Obviously, Ben Franklin's pretty recognizable, iconic, because that's what happens when you're on currency, baby.
Yeah, when you're on the Benjamins.
Exactly. And then that is his son, his illegitimate son, his illegitimate but acknowledged son, who would die in England, remaining loyal to the crown. So, and then another one I wanted to bring up real quick. If you could bring up Askill. Okay?
No problem.
So, William will argue against what becomes known as the Escrow Affair. And this is actually an important note in the history books. Joshua Huddy has an amazing story, but his death causes the first international incident in American history. When G-Dubs saw that the British would not hand over Lippincott, who, by the way, this is what the British crown was so good at back then, of just making up their own rules or being like, it's diplomacy. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? They're so mafia-like without being mafia-like. They're like, this Lippincott guy, don't worry, we're going to handle him. We're going to punish him. Mm-hmm. Where does Lippincott wind up, Dad?
He's forgiven.
They send him to Canada. They say, you got court-martialed. Hey, you better get out of here, though, all right, mister? You better not pull anything like this ever again. Okay, so they do take away his rank. They send his ass up to Canada, and he's granted, I believe, 3,000 acres of land in Canada by the British Crown.
Right.
You ever pull off a war crime like this again, there'll be a giant plantation up in Canada with your name all over it, you bastard.
That's right. Thanks for your services to the Crown. Here's 3,000 acres up in Canada, but maybe it's a good idea to skedaddle out of New Jersey and get your ass up to still in British control Canada.
If you remember, this just was such a instant memory for me. Colonel Tavington, who was not a real person, but the Green Dragoons were a real unit in The Patriot, Mel Gibson's The Patriot.
The movie.
Right. Cornwallis is actually portrayed as a true soldier, you know what I mean? And he's fighting for the crown and the glory and trying to do things the right way. And the only reason that he unleashes Tavington is because Tavington says, well, I'm going to fight the war my own way. And he goes, but I can't smear your good name, Lord Cornwallis, so you let me do what I do, and I'll just take Ohio.
I'll take the dirty name and give me Ohio for my troubles.
Give me Ohio. And that seems to be kind of the Lippincott thing here. I'll kill Huddy.
Yeah.
Just make sure I wind up in Canada. So.
Well, land at the time was as good as money, so to give somebody 3,000 acres
is better.
Right. Yeah, arguably better than that.
Yeah, $20 is going to be $20 if you keep it in a piggy bank. Land is going to become, entire countries, nations, states, provinces. So, anyhow, this is the problem that they're starting to see over here. So Lippincott is not going to get handed over. In fact, he becomes rewarded. Had the American government known about that, I'm sure they would have gone crazy. But you can just quietly disappear off into the sunset. G-Dubs knows that the Jersey Shore Patriots are demanding blood. He can either give it to them or let them go buck wild and get it on their own on the remaining loyalist population, which is a tough spot for a country that's trying to start to heal and create its own identity, and again realizing that just because the war's over doesn't mean the loyalists are going to move out. So G-Dubs is trying to figure out what the hell he's going to do here. I'm not saying anything crazy here, Dad. I'm just saying that G-Dubs knew that the war was leaning towards being over, and having a new country end its revolution by starting its civil war.
Yeah.
I mean, Ireland figured out it doesn't really work well.
Yeah,
You know,
that was later.
but that's
though,
centuries
yeah.
later.
You learn from past mistakes. But,
Exactly.
yeah.
So, but the idea to execute one of the captured British officers would be a bad move as well, since, by the way, it would violate Cornwallis's surrender agreements. So, the biggest victory in the war up to this point, you're going to dishonor the agreement made with a relatively honorable guy in Cornwallis. Who also, you want to talk about a black eye in diplomacy, too, as the European powers are like, what's this America all about over here? Well, I know that they already violated their first surrender that they got, you
Right.
know, so it would be a terrible look for them. But they don't know what to do moving forward, so G-Dubs, his hands are kind of tied at this point, and straws are drawn, Kahuna.
Yeah, you got to be honorable and go tit for tat. We killed one of yours, so we have to kill one of ours.
The Chicago way.
That's right. That's right.
Straws are going to be drawn by the British officers in custody, and Captain Charles Asgill will draw the short straw and would temporarily be facing the gallows. Because he drew the short straw, that means he has to be hung in retaliation for a guy he didn't know, who was hung by a guy he didn't know. So that's like a real, oh, what the?
That's right.
Come on.
That's right. You won the lottery, but it's not for it's not for $1 million or anything.
It's a tough one, man. But now it's a really gross look, too, for the United States here. And pleas for mercy will come from all over, including the recently involved French monarchy. King Louis and his queen, famous queen, by the way. Give you one wild guess on it, too, Coons.
Famous queen?
You know it.
Famous queen
Famous
from
French
France.
queen.
Oh, French queen.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
First name Marie.
Oh, really? Son of
Yes.
a bitch.
That's kind of an.
Cahoon about to say Marie Claire, Maria Shriver. No, it was
yeah,
Marie
I wasn't turning
Antoinette.
on Kahuna Vision for that one.
But yeah, Marie Antoinette and King Louis were both sitting there saying, like, this isn't a good look for you guys. You're going to kill a guy who had nothing to do with it just because you got to kill somebody. That's not really how we do things. I know you're a new country and
an
all.
eye for an eye kind of a thing
Yeah.
is the adage. But,
Yeah, I know you Americans are crazy, but kind of smarten up a little, will you?
Yeah, and George Washington is really in a rock and a hard place here because you got all these patriots clamoring for some British officer has to be killed to avenge the death of Huddy, and now you got the French are involved with their aid in the whole big victory at Yorktown and everything else. Asgrill's widow, or not widow, I'm sorry.
Technically widow.
Asgrill's wife is also pleading, and she's going to the French emissary, if you will, who then goes to George Washington to plead for her husband's life. And so there's a lot of...
Widow in waiting would be the term.
yeah, widow in waiting. Almost, not quite that yet, but, there's a lot of moving parts here that... and his whole diplomatic kind of a thing, and what kind of look you're going to have here going forward. So, yeah, again, there's a lot of moving parts here as to why we might just want to let this one slide.
The most important one in terms of, because they do let him go, by the way. They decide not to execute this guy who had nothing to do with it. And the reason being is because he had nothing to do with it, and the reason the Patriot side kind of calmed down a little bit is because Huddy's own wife was saying, he doesn't deserve to die for the death of my husband. He had nothing to do with it. I want the guy that actually killed my husband.
Right.
But
he's cooling his heels up in Canada at this
oh, yeah.
point.
He's already changing his name to Gretzky and everything.
Starting a hockey league.
Yeah. Anyhow, so to bring this one to an end here, this first international affair, the French monarchy actually has to say, let cooler heads prevail. And they decide not to execute this officer. And Captain Ascrow is sitting there just saying, whew, all right. I'm going to go back to England now, guys. Is that okay? Yeah, sure. Get out of here, man. Sorry we almost hung you for nothing, no crime you actually committed. But anyway, it's pretty nuts on that whole side. That becomes known as, like I said, the first international incident, also known as the Astral Affair. And by the way, the two sides negotiating against each other, on the side of the Patriots, Benjamin Franklin. On the side of the Loyalists, William Franklin. A father-son argument on each side of the aisle in terms of what to do about this whole situation.
You say that would have been a bad podcast. I would have listened to the hell out of that podcast, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there was a couple.
It'd get personal every week.
Yeah, and difference of opinion for sure.
Big time.
But that whole thing about sending Lincott up to Canada, that was the move. At the end of the Revolutionary War, a lot of these loyalists then took, all their family and possessions and moved up to Canada. And all of those black slaves that were promised their freedom if they fought for the British, there was a goodly number of those that were also shipped off to Canada. However, once they got to Canada, the land that they were promised was a little second rate compared to some of the white loyalists, but that's a story for another day.
They sent him to Newfoundland?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
There was another.
I think South Park said it all. Newfoundland is nothing but fishing and sodomy.
Okay.
I didn't say it. That was South Park. We have Canadian listeners. I
All
appreciate you guys.
There you go.
Sorry I boot that.
You got to be kidding me.
But
and that's an episode of American Loser, folks.
we're
Good
on our
night.
way out. I'll say
Another
that much
episode.
here. Well, but that is, again, that first international fair, all because of the death of Joshua Huddy here. Now, Huddy House is over in Colts Neck. Okay, you can go there. There's a revolutionary vibe to it. Damn good burger, too, by the way. And clean beer lines, I might add, folks.
You can personally attest to that.
I can attest to that one. It is a cool place. If you're ever in Jersey, do go check that out over there. Definitely, like I said, an American Revolutionary War vibe. Pretty cool spot over there. I'll take Cahoons one day. We'll go grab some food after work.
Fuck yeah.
But Huddy's grave is also, like we said, marked, or at least the attempt a marker exists at the Old Tenant Church. A historical plaque hangs in Rumson to mark his daring escape from Colonel Tye's capture. And Huddy Park down in Toms River, where there's actually a built-up little fortification down there, too, in honor of, the battle there. And then Battle River Brewing also does a nice job with, first of all, they make good beer. Second of all, the owner's really cool. They let them do comedy there as well. I got a whole tour. Me and Cianci and his wife Mel actually got a whole tour of the facility while we were down there, too.
There you go.
So the guy was just talking to us about everything, and then all of the beers there are named after, I think it's like Blue Coat Patriot Ale and stuff like that. So it's really cool. And you wonder why, and that's because of this guy, Joshua Huddy, this larger-than-life, weird pseudo-pirate, drunken renegade Quaker who wound up causing a little bit of shit down the Jersey Shore.
One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter.
There you go.
Absolutely. So I'm going to say this. I want to wrap up real quick. I want to say thank you to the Kahuna for putting in all the time and effort you have over there. Please, please, please continue to support the show here, guys. I'll find out what the hell's going on with Apple Podcasts. That's pissing me off a little bit. Hopefully this episode is able to go up here soon. We'll find out what's going on. Like I said, if you're enjoying the stuff over on YouTube, leave comments on there too. We're trying to continue to grow the show that way. We're trying to reach a wider audience so that we can get to do more cool stuff. I want to do man on the street stuff. I want to do weird little documentaries. I want to allow Kahuna to do loser theater with puppets like he's been talking about for 3 years now. Actually, Dad, he's been talking about it longer than that.
I think since childhood.
No. Definitely he's been talking about that with us for over 4 years now.
4 years.
4 years of losing in style, okay? 4 years. If Uncle Paulie was here, what would he say? They don't give murderers 4 years.
That's right.
So it is a blast to do the show with you. I get to hang out with my dad pretty much every week. Kahuna has become absolute family to us. This is 4 years of us doing the show. The only reason the show gets to live as long as it has is because of the people over at the Founding Losers.
Absolutely.
Maybe year 5 I'll get to go to Berkfest, but we'll see.
You've been invited every year.
Hey, that's bullshit. I
Listen,
the bullshit
this year
monitor just
he
went
didn't
off.
tell me. I'm just fucking with you guys, I love it.
I was teasing with cousin Megan. I said, "You think I'm flaky?"
Oh man, but I honestly, man, you guys are probably my favorite show that comes through here.
Oh, I don't like the word
I got
probably. in that.
probably, yeah,
Oof.
yeah.
No, like, come on. I can listen.
Probably?
Abalo listens to this. I don't want him to cry.
Abalo's a good man.
All right. You gotta take care of your own. I know.
Yeah, exactly.
You got your peeps. We got ours.
Speaking of patriotic
Everyone knows
causes,
my
too, by
favorite
the way. Speaking of patriotic causes, I got to plug some dates real quick here if I can. Lawrence, Patrick, do you have anything you want to say to the people while I bring my calendar up?
No, I just the one little side note here: that old Tennant Church that you talked about, where there is an historical plaque marking, the site, if you will, of the Huddy grave. That's also a very cool place to check out historically, just for the Battle of Monmouth, because I believe the pews in that church were used as a temporary hospital from the Battle of Monmouth. So it's it goes way back. It goes way back.
Well, I also want to say that, too. One thing I could point out real quickly is that 4 years of us covering some of the weirdest losers in American history, it's an absolute blast. 4 years of puppet jokes, 4 years of inside jokes between the three of us. The show, we all clearly get along. That's why it's a great show.
Yeah.
It's also 4 years of me asking my father, Dad, anything else you want to say? And he says, no. It's just that...
There you go.
So
yeah. Well, while we have you here, too, we got 4 years worth of losers, and we're not running out of losers. But if the listeners have anybody that they would like to suggest, please contact us. Let us know. I mean, if you got a favorite loser in your mind, let us know. Maybe we can dive into that.
I love hearing from the fans of the show, too. You guys are our friends as well. It's the extended universe, man. So people like Tyler Prysock, Jake Perro, Nick Franco, Stu Greenberg, Mike Gorski came back into the picture, too. Man, happy to have you back, brother. All right. Deb P. out there, Deb Potts. She's nuts. We love her. She's crazy. We get so many great things. I'm leaving people out, too, and I feel bad about that. But I had my phone on airplane mode, so I can't even bring up the Patreon. We're going to do something proper for you guys here now that we're back in action. There will be exclusive Patreon episode at the very end of this month as well, too, that only people on Patreon are going to get. I'm not putting that out on YouTube. That's only for you guys because we're just grateful for what you do for us. If you felt like it, folks, you can check out good old Escape from Jacksonville. That's still free over on YouTube. I have a meeting with them. I believe we're finally clearing up the red tape for Sirius XM, Cahoons. So the audio done by the great Chris Madd will be available for that. Friday, September 30th, I'll be opening for the great Robert Kelly. I believe that one is at Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, at the Mock Chunk Theater. It's one of the most.
That's a loose reception there.
The Molly Maguires were executed right across the street.
And Jim Thorpe.
And Jim Thorpe as well. And then October 1st, I believe I'm at the Newtown Theater in Newtown, Pennsylvania, also opening up for the great Robert Kelly. Then, not opening up for anybody on October 14th and 15th, I am headlining Nick's Comedy Stop in Boston, folks. I shouldn't say this. They tell you to act like you've been there before. I have closed shows before. I can headline. I'm capable of doing it. It's taken me all of the almost 11 years now, 10 and a half at least, of doing stand-up to put out something I'm confident in doing that amount of time for. But we've done it. And it is my first full weekend at a club. It's also a pretty legendary club. A lot of great Boston comics started out there who went on to big, big things. Like Bobcat Goldthwait, Bill Burr, Louis C.K.
I think I heard of those guys.
Yeah, another. Honestly, the guy that's been. I don't have the career that I have without him. Bobby Kelly, who just means a lot to me. And also Nick DiPaolo, who told me that he watched the first 15 minutes of my special and loved it, and then he probably had something else to do. So, but Nick was a guy that helped me get my first little bit of notice in the business, if you will. So always grateful for all those crazy Boston comics that I love. But that is the 14th and the 15th at Nick's Comedy Stop. That's in October. Come see me out there if you're in the area, man. Seriously, do that for me. It's going to be a damn good show, too. I'm not sure who's opening. Maybe I'll see what happens here. I have a wing and a prayer to be doing something pretty cool on October 29th that I'm not allowed to talk about just yet.
I'll mark that down, Kev.
But let's just say, hey, babe, the people who get that one are going to get that. So, and then in November 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th, you can see my ass opening on some shows, headlining on others at Side Splitters in Tampa, one of my favorite clubs in the entire country. I will be featuring for the great Bobby Kelly, and then I believe on the Thursday and the Sunday night shows, they're letting me headline, baby, because that's what happens when Bobby doesn't want to do them. So, and we got some cool stuff we're trying to figure out now to make that happen down in Memphis. Andy Highroller says hello, by the way, Kahuna, and he wants to call that show down there "Escape from Your Family." It's it's a Black Friday night gig over in Memphis, and I will go down there eventually. I just apparently where Andy lives, you need a Kevlar vest to hang out. So,
Matching bets.
absolutely. But again, keep supporting the show if you guys can. Check out the special. Kahuna, anything you want to say to the fans after 4 years of being behind the ones and twos for us?
Jesus, 4 years. I don't know, man. It's just been a pleasure. It's always, and I can't wait to see where we end up taking this show, because this is going to be. It's just been an honor to be a part of.
Well, we love you, man. The show's
It'll make me cry.
yeah. There is something cool that I'll just go ahead and announce as well. The show started as a book.
You got over that real quick.
Nope.
No?
Because we got some work we have to do on a few things. I do have a couple tiny little other projects we're going to put our mastermind creative over there in charge of. But in terms of the sitting down and the writing portion, I am going to be putting out a book where we will go over every American election. I will have this out by election year, not the midterms, all right? Give me at least a year and a half. Everybody who's ran for president and lost, okay? That was the heart of the show. That was the original idea for everything when it was still a book, and I will be putting that out. We've already looked into self-publishing via Amazon. Also, another additional project, too, involving the lighthouses of New Jersey, because I don't know why I'm captivated by them, but I am. So we're not stopping with the content. Okay, and I might be having to clean beer lines for the rest of my life. I might be taking out a second mortgage on the mortgage I never had, but I can't stop at this point because too many people have told me that they love the show and that we mean a lot to them, and I hope you guys know you mean a lot to us. And that was Joshua Huddy, American Loser. Dad, who is the biggest loser in American history?
I told you, KP, don't be so hard on yourself. Enjoy some of the wildest chapters
and most glanced over topics here on American Loser.